So, as the Twitter files are being released, I believe that we're up to episode 3 thus far, although it's kind of hard to keep track of the random interlaced drops of bits of information. But basically, as far as we definitely know that there was FBI and government collusion working with Twitter, a private company, in order to control the dissemination of information that would have been harmful to particular candidates, political officials on both sides. Now, don't get me wrong here. That's one thing that we are going to focus on. But one thing that's super important that we have to focus on is so many people, particularly on the left side, the Democratic side, trying to push this off as just regular business practices, as in private organizations are able to operate however they see fit, or more particularly, that social media sites should have control of the dissemination of the information on their sites. That's true to a certain degree. There are many, many examples of content that we do want moderated, we do want censored, for lack of a better term, and we do want removed from shared public spaces, even in a digital format. Things like, human, I'm not sure. Anyways, things like human, I think that's a whole. Anyways, things like human trafficking, things like child explicit images of children, stuff like that, should basically things that are illegal. But as far as information, particularly about news that is coming out about important political figures, these are things that we definitely should not be accepting the restricting, the shadow banning of. Another thing, it's very easy to say that you're not shadow banning people, because shadow banning is a not an official term. There's no official meaning for shadow banning, though we all know what it means. So they said that it was called VF, like visibility factor or something like that. Visibility frequency. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but it was another term that essentially meant shadow banning. And once again, people are saying, oh, well, they're a private company, they can do whatever they want. That's true. That is very true. But how many times did they swear up and down that that wasn't what they were doing? That's the part that is not okay, because that's the most damning part of all of this, is that if they had said, we moderate content, we make sure we control the narrative in a certain way, in a certain fashion, that we would be having a very different conversation right now. But the fact of the matter is that they swore up and down. So many. Yoel Roth, Vijaya Gadde, Jack Dorsey, all people fully aware of what was going on in the background to certain degrees, because apparently Jack Dorsey is trying to claim ignorance to a lot of things. And you know what? I think he's a goofball, but that's neither here nor there. To a certain degree, he was complicit in the things that were going on in the background, meaning that he knew and they openly lied time and time and time and time again, including on the Joe Rogan podcast, for everybody to see. One thing you can say about what Mark Zuckerberg was doing and saying on the Joe Rogan podcast, and maybe it was because he knew that this kind of stuff was coming and he knew that he was going to have to at least have a little bit of transparency. One thing you can say about it is at least he was admitting some of the things that we were all like, damn, when he talked about when the government and the FBI reached out to them about the Hunter Biden story. At least he admitted it, man, and never said that they weren't doing that. At least he kept his lips closed for the most part about what he was doing until he probably felt pressurized by all the other things that were going on. It was interesting timing, wasn't it? But I say all that to say that Twitter did not keep the same posture. They swore up and down that they weren't doing anything like this. They swore up and down that it was not disproportionately affecting Republicans and conservatives. They swore that none of this, that all of this was a figment of people's imagination. And this actually swayed people's beliefs into thinking that these people who were being banned, being removed, were for legitimate reasons, or that these stories that were going around were false or didn't even exist in the first place. And all of that has to be addressed and has to be accounted for. So you guys can run your defenses for them all that you want to. But the truth is that out of their own mouths, they set up what would be their eventual demise. They built their own coffin to lay in with their words.